When it comes to change, tiny is mighty. There are super small changes that can change everything in our lives. And these changes become habits. And those tiny habits can make or break our futures. Why? Because a lot of our habits happen automatically or by default. This can lead to frustration, feelings of just going through the motions with no goals achieved or no goals set. It can also lead to happiness and freedom and success by your definition. The difference between those two outcomes is a life by default versus a life by design. Welcome back to the Women's Empowerment Podcast. I'm your host and healthy habit mentor, Valerie Levine. I help women create a life by design, not by default, so that you can truly step into your best self and finally let go of the toxic habits that are holding you back. Part of what sets me apart from other health or life coaches is that I use the power of simple changes, small, seemingly insignificant behaviors, tiny habits that lead to transformative results. I combine my love for neuroscience and behavior science with spirituality like astrology and human design that really supports my one-on-one clients and our community members. Speaking of human design, I am a line 1 profile, meaning I'm an investigator, and I love diving deep into topics that really light me up. Habits, naturally, this topic lights me up. Something that I started last year on the show was sharing some of my research and my findings through book report style episodes. These episodes feature books I've read and how I use them to support my clients. You can visit the show notes page to this episode at valerielevinelife.com/235, or visit the description of this video for the link to the other book report style episodes if you love this one. If you haven't already guessed it, today's book report is about Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. Sound familiar? Maybe because it's a New York Times bestseller, or maybe because a couple of the other books that I've shared on this show mention this book in it. And for good reason. Fogg has done some groundbreaking research and founded Stanford's Behavior Design Lab. He shares decades of research in this book, and like the effectiveness of tiny habits, he breaks these down into tiny concepts that build in a sequence throughout the book. For the goal of this episode, I'm going to focus on just a few of those key pieces of the book that I found most insightful that I also use with my own clients. We'll discuss and dive deeper into each of the elements of behavior change, followed by how tiny habits become transformative habits. But first, let's break down the anatomy of tiny habits. This is important because most of the time, tiny is the only option. And you might be thinking, what do you mean? I like to go big, I like to go home. Well, change is rarely immediate, and it's certainly not automatic. Not right away anyway. But making small and significant changes grows into more lasting and impactful change over time. In fact, I was speaking with one of our Healthy Habit members, and we were building out a new habit of her practicing Pilates on the patio. This client loves to go big or go home. And through the membership program, she has really learned how detrimental this can be. With the support of some questions and some suggestions that I have for her, she was able to create a super simple, super tiny new behavior that would help her do the absolute bare minimum of the habit. And she felt affirmed. And even if it was just that one tiny thing, even if she did the bare minimum, it would still count towards her goal. This is crucial to the bigger transformation, because if we can't even get the ball rolling, then we won't be able to build momentum or build a foundation to grow. Let's understand the anatomy of tiny habits according to BJ Fogg. The first part is this, the anchor moment. This is an existing routine or an event that has already happened or already happens within your day. For my client, every morning when her alarm goes off, she puts on her comfy bathrobe and will have a very slow morning routine, a very relaxing morning routine. The anchor moment reminds you to do the tiny behavior. Now, the second part of the habit anatomy or the anatomy of the tiny habit is the new tiny behavior. This is the simple version of the new habit you want. Notice that I said it's not the new habit you want to create, but the simplified version of it. You do the tiny behavior immediately after the anchor moment. For my client, this meant putting on her Pilates clothes after her alarm goes off. And then the robe can go on after that if it needs to. So the alarm is the anchor moment, and now we're putting on our Pilates attire. And finally, the third part of the anatomy of a tiny habit is instant celebration. This is something you do to create positive emotions, such as saying, I did a good job, or you celebrate immediately after doing the new tiny behavior. And you can remember the anatomy of tiny habits with the letters A, B, C. A for anchor, B for behavior, and C for celebration. This book has a huge emphasis on the power of tiny. The smaller the behavior, the better. And one of the reasons for this is because you are more likely to do a simple action. If the actions are too extravagant or too complicated, or they take too long, then there's less of a chance that you're going to repeat it. This is something that comes up often in my work. People are reaching out to me in frustration or anger as to why their 2-hour morning routine that they want to create didn't stick, or why they can't stay consistent with their daily workouts when there are always so many layers to unpack, and each client is unique, and all of their habits are very different, even for them. But one of the most common reasons is because the new behavior that they're trying to implement isn't tiny enough. Let's understand this better through the elements of behavior. In his book, Fogg says, you can change your life by changing your behaviors. We know that. But what you might not know is that there are only 3 variables that drive those behaviors. This is demonstrated through the Fogg behavior model. The model goes B equals MAP, or B map. B for behavior equals happens when motivation, ability, and prompt converge at the same time. According to Fogg, this model works for any and all behaviors. Take a moment to consider a new routine or a current routine of your own. Before we break down each part of this model, think of your own motivation for this new or current behavior that you have. Think of your ability to complete the action, and what prompts or anchors have you set up to get you into motion. When I do this activity with myself or my clients, there tends to be a moment of where that light bulb goes off, like the, I got it. And sure enough, the reason for that is because we've already implemented the behavior model in one way or another. I really like Fogg's visual representation of BMAP, which shows how motivation and ability work in relationship to each other. And if you like visuals, there are lots of them in the Tiny Habits book. The first thing we need to have to complete our behavior is M for motivation. Motivation is complex and it's often unreliable. It fluctuates sometimes on the same day. So why would motivation be so important if it isn't that effective, you could say? And that's a great question. And the reason why, or the answer, is because motivation is our why. And our why is the most important thing. When we understand the aspiration and the outcome that we want to achieve, we can find the best behavior that will help us reach that outcome. In my own coaching and my own teaching, I ask my clients and my students how they want to feel. This feeling word is our motivation, our aspiration, our outcome. When we understand how we want to feel, we can then begin to brainstorm behaviors and actions that help us feel that way. There are always more than one and usually many different types of behaviors that we can do to get to this outcome. Part of how BJ Fogg helps you choose your new behavior is by first brainstorming all the ways that you can connect to the desired outcome, and then by organizing the options into one of 4 quadrants. This is another visual that shares 2 arrows crossing each other in a T formation. The upward arrow says high impact behaviors, and the downward arrow says low impact behaviors. Then the arrows pointing to the right say, yes, I can get myself to do this behavior, or to the other side, the left, no, I cannot get myself to do this behavior. Using the list of habits and behaviors that you've brainstormed, place the behaviors in their quadrants. Whichever behaviors end up in that top right quadrant are both high impact and actions you can actually get yourself to do. And Fogg calls these your golden behaviors. While I don't practice this exact exercise with my clients, we do go through questions that weed out the low impact and the low motivation behaviors, and we identify the golden behaviors for them. In my experience, there are typically only 1 or 2 golden behaviors that really stand out to my client that I'm working with. And that's where we put our focus, or that's where our focus lies. The next piece of the Fogg method is ability. This is such a key ingredient in creating a new habit. And funnily enough, this is where most people usually get bored or where habits seem really unsexy. And it's one of my favorite parts of the habit formation. The key to a person's ability to be successful with their new behavior is simplicity. Here's how I'm going to lay it out. And maybe you've heard this before, but I want you to think of the biggest tree you have ever seen in real life. Imagine yourself with that tree. You're standing beside it. Maybe you're touching it. Maybe you're taking a rest under. Maybe you looked at that tree and said, "That's a big forking tree right there." This is what everyone wants in their life. They want this huge tree. They want the benefits of the shade of the tree. And they maybe want the fruit or the flowers the tree makes. They want to climb the tree to see new heights. The tree did not appear as this miraculous huge tree overnight. This big motherforking tree was once a tiny seed. Yes, it was once a boring acorn, we'll call it. And perhaps someone planted this seed in the ground, and every day, little by little, the seed began to grow. And more days and weeks and months and years, perhaps decades went by before this tree became the tree that you see and know and love today. And the reason why so many people fail with habit formation and they don't achieve their outcomes and they don't feel their feeling word is because they have overlooked the seed. They couldn't see the potential and the possibilities, and they couldn't look beyond what was there to what could be. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that if you aren't planting your own meaningful or intentional seeds, other behaviors will form in your life without you knowing. And instead of being this big, beautiful tree you aspire to be, you are standing in or a part of a garden of weeds or bad habits and negative feelings. You're not even sure how they all got there in the first place. This is a life by default, and this breaks my heart. So how do we avoid this? How do we grow our big tree? We live a life by design, and it starts with our tiny habits. Let's get back to the book for some tips on our ability to form new habits. Fogg writes, "What I found in my research and years of experience is that your answer to what is making your habit too hard to do will involve at least one of 5 factors. I call them the ability factors, and here's the breakdown. Do you have enough time to do the behavior? Do you have enough money to do the behavior? Are you physically capable of doing the behavior? Does the behavior require a lot of creative or mental energy? Does the behavior fit into your current routine, or does it require you to make adjustments?" You ask these questions with your golden behavior. If it passes all of the questions, then you've got your new habit. And if not, you've saved yourself a lot of time by uncovering obstacles before you actually got to it. I use these questions and I have these questions as part of my one-on-one coaching. It's actually part of my clarity call where new people can book a 45-minute session with me to create an action plan with some next and specific steps to their new behavior. In that session, we're using the B=MAP formula in many ways. I also have a question of my own that I like to add, which is, are there any obstacles that you can foresee when you begin this new habit? Sometimes the words physically capable or mental energy, for example, don't really resonate with everyone. But when they take a moment to really think about the behavior in action, they begin to see some of the ways that they might not work out for them. Asking these questions or practicing the actual habit altogether really highlights what could go wrong. And it gives us the chance to create solutions to support it in advance. It's very proactive practice. The final part of the FOG behavior model is P for prompt. Other names for prompt are cues or triggers. FOG says prompts are the invisible drivers of our lives. And it's very true. Our alarm goes off and we get out of bed. We see a notification and we check our messages. The light turns green and we go. He writes, where a habit is located in your daily routine can make the difference between action and inaction, success and failure. There are 3 different kinds of prompts described in the book. The first one is person prompt. This means having a person prompt themselves to do the action. An example of this would be any prompt that's like a bodily urge. So it's not really ideal or reliable when creating a new habit. Things like you're hungry, you're thirsty, or you have to pee. A context prompt is something in your context or your environment that cues you to take action. This kind of prompt is best suited for more one-time behaviors like making a doctor's appointment or signing up for a new workshop. And the third prompt is called an action prompt. And this behavior, it's something that you already do that can remind you to do the habit that you want to cultivate. For example, if you start your coffee maker in the morning, that can be your prompt to do a new stretching habit using the kitchen counter. According to FOG, this is a very special type of prompt, this last prompt. The action prompt is one way you can hack your behavior with the tiny habits method. So the action that you're already doing in your day becomes your anchor. When you're choosing an anchor, you want to be precise and specific. Here are 3 things that FOG shares to take into account to find good anchors. The first one is match the habit and the anchor with a physical location. This is a really important factor. What are you already doing in that location? What routine can you add into that same location? So for example, let's say that you already take a shower every morning and you want to floss your teeth in the morning as well as at night. Well, we floss our teeth in the bathroom, we have a shower in the bathroom, so we can start to stack those habits together. The second way to help you find an anchor, choosing the right anchor, is to match the frequency. So how often do you want to do your new habit? If you want to do it once a day, do it in a sequence that happens once a day. If you want to do it multiple times a day, do it in a sequence that happens multiple times. One of the things that I started to do was when I'm podcast editing, so I edit these parts out of the video, but I'm going to keep this one, where I drink water when I need a pause or when I am looking through my notes and I hit a certain part of my notes, I have like a moment to drink water and reset. And also on my computer, every time I send an email, I drink water. Every time I upload a audio or a video and I'm waiting, I'll drink water. And so there's these little cues with my computer that I'm drinking water when I'm sitting at my desk because it's really easy to forget that. And that's frequency. I want to do it often. The third way to find your anchor is to match the theme or the purpose. And while this factor is less vital, some of the best anchors will have the same theme or purpose as the new habit. So an example that I wanted to share was if you're watering your plants, you can also drink water. So you're nourishing your plants and you're nourishing yourself. At this point of our episode, I'm really hoping you understand a little bit more of the FOG behavior model. As a reminder, it's B equals behavior happens when motivation, ability, and prompts converge at the same time. The last point I want to share before talking about tiny habits becoming transformative is how celebration can really help you make your new behavior a habit. FOG says, when you celebrate effectively, you tap into the reward circuitry of your brain, and by feeling good at the right moment, you can cause your brain to recognize and encode the sequence of behaviors you just performed. In other words, you can hack your brain to create a habit by celebrating and reinforcing that. Through his studies, Fogg has discovered the direct connection between what you feel and when you do a behavior and the likelihood that it will be repeated in the future. Think of what celebration means for you. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. How can you celebrate your new behavior that you're creating? So, for example, back to my water bottle, it just did this, but it's done now. The bottom piece here lights up, and it's actually mostly for a reminder. But when I reach my water goal, it lights up more like a disco ball sort of thing. It's like a little bit more of a party instead of a, hey, drink me. It's like, woohoo, you did it. And so that in a way is a celebration. You can think of celebration as a habit fertilizer. And speaking of fertilizer, when it comes to transforming your tiny habits, there are two ways that we can do this. And the first is habits that grow, and the second is habits that multiply. So, like plants, habits can grow. Habits that grow are habits that get bigger. The habit expands. For example, maybe your habit is to meditate every day, and you started with taking 3 mindful breaths every morning. Over time, your habit began to grow into maybe 5 breaths, 10 breaths, 30 seconds of breathing, whatever it was. And now you meditate for 30 minutes every morning. Also, like plants, habits can multiply. This typically happens when the habit you've cultivated is one piece of a larger ecosystem of behaviors. And when a habit multiplies, you can expect a compound or a ripple effect into other areas of your life. For example, you have a habit of getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep every night. Getting quality sleep gives you more energy in your day. And when you have more energy in your day, you're excited to work out and move your body. And when you work out and move your body daily, you are thirstier, so you drink more water. And when you drink more water, you support your skin and your digestive system and so much more because you're hydrated, etc., etc. The ripple effects continue. Similar to that habit tree analogy that I shared earlier in this episode, it doesn't matter that your tiny habit is so small to start with. Tiny is simple. Tiny is doable. Tiny has potential. The important piece is that success leads to success, and the size of that success doesn't seem to matter much. When you feel successful at something, even if it's tiny, your self-confidence grows quickly, and your motivation increases to do the habit again and perform related behaviors. And this is called success momentum. As your healthy habit mentor, I help you go from tiny to transformative. If you're new around here and you're looking for the very basics of building a new habit, I'd love for you to check out the other episodes of the podcast and get access to the Transform Your Habits self-paced course that supports you in building your new habits. You can find it at valerielevinelife.com/challenge. Maybe you've been here a little while and you're interested in booking one of those clarity calls I shared, and you really want to understand your next best steps, and you want to start taking action on those goals. You can book a clarity call with me at valerielevinelife.com/clarity. Or maybe you're looking for community, accountability, and ongoing support with building momentum for your habits. Amazing. We have a virtual community of women in our Healthy Habit membership. I host monthly workshops for this group, and there are also weekly Voxer support available. This is at valerielevinelife.com/membership. And if you're truly ready, if you're really ready to up level your life, if you want to dive deeper and remove the overwhelming blocks that keep you stuck and keep you living that life by default, if you're ready to live a life by design, then I would love to support you in creating this future of yours in our one-on-one Make a Habit mentorship program, which you can find at valerielevinelife.com/mentorship. To get access to any and all of these offers, you can check out the show notes page of wherever you're listening to this episode, or the description of this video for all the direct links. If you have questions, send me a DM on Instagram. You can find me at Val Living Life or leave a comment below the video of this episode.